Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I am doing exceptionally well, Joe. We're just kicking off 2023 here. Had a little rocky start. Right on January 1st, I got this crazy flu that I haven't had in 20 years. Knocked me out for days. I mean, that has not happened to me in a long time. So watch out, you guys. Wash your hands and all that jazz, whatever your mom says. It's the real deal out there. And then it kind of went through my family. So we're kind of just I got a lot of energy this week because it's the first week I'm actually back in action. So happy New Year, everybody. Where are you at right now, Joe?
I'm just down the street in Kenmore, so nothing too exciting. Hanging out with the parents right now.
Good stuff. Doing the CrossFit. Your mom, you're still coaching your mom or what?
Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, whether like what the plan is for this season. I think she still wants to go and keep doing that one more year at least, and we will see if we can do it again.
For those of you that didn't know, Joe coached his mom into be like the what? World champion for senior CrossFit. What is the title that she got?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, she was the fittest 65 plus in the world via CrossFit. And then last year, she got fifth place in the world. So it's been a fun bonding experience. Yeah.
Here you go, right under your nose, guys. If you guys need a fitness coach, are missing out. You got to go check out Joe's fitness stuff. It's what is it? The Get Better Project.
You got it.
Drop it down below. How can everybody's inspired in 2023 to get more fit? So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, do so because you all know Joe, and obviously he knows what he's doing. So speaking about who knows what he's doing, we have a new guest, a new friend to introduce you today, and that is Mr. Jens Nielsen of Open Doors Capital. A lot of you guys out there flip, which is a day job, which is great. You soon realize, or I hope that you soon realize, that buying multifamily properties and buy and holds is the way to go. Jumping into multifamily can help you scale much faster if that's something that you're interested in. Today, we are going to meet Mr. Jens Nielsen of Open Doors Capital. Him and his partners have been investing in commercial real estate for over 20 years. He started out just like most of you guys with small properties, learning the business from the ground up, and eventually started partnering with passive investors and buying larger properties through JVs and eventually syndications. I think it's a good story. It's a relatable story from what I know, and I am excited to learn more about it today. So let's jump into it. Hi, Jens. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Julie and Joe. I'm super excited about being here today.
Awesome. Yeah, well, and the one reason, honestly, guys, that Jens is on the podcast today is because he's a fellow Dane. We are both Danish, him way more than me, but he'll tell you his story here. I don't know if you guys know that about me, but I'm half Danish. And as I confessed to Jens, yeah, I can only say like two things and count to 10. So that's about as Danish as it gets over here in Ballard. But let's hear your story. Joe will kick us off with the first question, and we'll get to know you a little bit better today.
Yeah, Jens, we like to really deep dive, and we'd love to know how you grew up, where you grew up, and then how that led you into the real estate business as much as you want to share, because we think that that's fun to learn more about you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Julie, as you said, right, I'm from Denmark originally, grew up in rural Denmark, born like 51 years ago. So it's been a couple of days. No real estate aspirations early on. I got into IT telecommunication in my younger years and got an opportunity to move to London, England in 1994 to work. Telecommunication was kind of blowing up there in the mid 90s, and got an opportunity to go there. And I was living in Copenhagen at the time. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Let me go to London and learn English a little bit better and kind of just experience living in a big city as a young person in my mid 20s. Super fun, from growing up in the countryside to living in a city of over 8 million people. It was a little overwhelming, but also super fun. And did that, lived there for a couple of years. And then I got an opportunity to move to the US in 1996 for the same company. Again, telecommunication was going crazy. So I ended up, moving to the US and then taking this job where I was traveling all over the world. So I've literally spent weeks, not even months in Hong Kong, in the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, South America, all over Europe. So I spent like the first kind of 10 years of my working career traveling all over the place. At some point I got tired of that. And I said, met my now wife and other things. I need to settle down. So I transitioned into basically IT, got into like telecommunication kind of was dying or took a big hit there in the late 90s. I transitioned into IT, did what I thought I was supposed to do, get a job, get an education. I ended up going to college here, getting my undergrad, my master's degree in computer science, and had some good jobs. And it never really occurred to me that there was any other way, right? It's like, hey, save your money, retire when you can at 65, 70 years old. So I moved all over the country. I was in Maryland first, moved out to the Southwest, to Albuquerque in 2006, then to Southwestern Colorado for another job. And then, about my mid 40s, I was like, wow, I got to do this for another 20, 25 years. And all these young kids are now like nipping at my heels with these new skills that I have to learn in order to kind of stay competitive. I was like, what do I need to do here? I need to change. And I looked around and everything else looked like a job until I kind of stumbled on real estate. I really remember it. I actually was listening to, I picked up a book on Audible, like how to invest in real estate or property rentals by Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. And that changed my life because like, wow, here's the path, right? This is what I need to do. And told my wife, we need to invest in real estate. Like, well, okay, let's do it. And, I reached out to the people that I kind of knew in the space and started getting some ideas. I didn't, sign up for a coach or a program. I just like took action. And so that was bought my first couple of fourplexes in 2016, and then have kind of grown from there. So I don't want to go through the whole story. Joe, you may have some other questions to ask, but that's kind of how I started investing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. In the beginning, did you have like analysis paralysis, or who are the friends that you had that kind of guided you in the beginning? Were they brokers or just people that owned apartments already? Or
yeah, it was interesting, right? When I kind of decided I wanted to do this, for better or worse, I didn't know anything about syndications, and you could partner with people. It's like, oh, either I should buy a house to rent out, or maybe I should buy something a little bit bigger. And I reached out to a friend I knew through the cycling community. Joe, you into CrossFit? I still into cycling. That's kind of my big hobby. And I reached out to him, and it turned out he had like 150, 200 mobile home park pads and some apartments and other things. That, you need to reach out to Chuck. He had done all these deals with Chuck, who's a broker in Albuquerque. Reach out to him, he'll help you. And I reached out to him, and he loves to work with newer investors. And within a few months, he's like, here's a deal that makes sense. I bought my first fourplex for like $117,000, I think it was. Not the best area of town, but that's a whole other part of the story, right? So I basically just took action. I didn't know much about it. I was like, well, 20, 30K, I had that in the bank. So let's just see where that takes me.
And somebody introduced you to Chuck. And so you had some sort of trust relationship there, trust through somebody else's trust, right? I like the story of like finding out who else in your circle that's, already investing in real estate and basically just networking with them to get you started. Sounded like you were hungry and ready to take action. I was going to ask you, did you have any analysis paralysis in the beginning, or were you like, knew that you needed change, and you were just ready to take action?
I didn't suffer from too much of that early on. I felt like it was on my own money, and it wasn't, too scary to put $20,000 or $30,000 into a deal. So I felt like it was okay, right? And Chuck, he was always very, he's also a property manager. He was always like, oh yeah, this makes sense. So I felt like he had this, I trusted him to tell me that this made sense, right? He probably would have bought it had I not, because he owns thousands of units. So I felt like there was a lot of trust there. That really helped me early on. And I've since, partnered with him as well on a deal. So it turned from a broker relationship to a partnership. So
excellent. So you bought your first property on your own. Did you buy a couple more on your own, or did you go straight into, did you ever, go straight into joint venturing with people, or how did that go from there?
Yeah. So in 2016, I bought the two fourplexes within a few months of each other. And then I told Chuck, hey, I want something a little bit bigger. And then at the end of like 2016, I think it was like, well, there's this 11 unit coming up. It's not in great shape, but you can probably get some seller financing on there. I was like, okay, well, let's take a look at that. And it was looking back, it was a pretty amazing deal because the seller carried the fund, the note or the mortgage back. And since it needed some work, we had like no payments for like 8 months or whatever. So all the money just got rolled back into the property, right? So we started, fixing up the units with that extra cash flow and so forth, right? So it turned out to be a great deal, right? We eventually refinanced it, paid the loan off, and pulled all that money out. So
Who was running all that for you? Who was renovating the units, and did Chuck bring, this was just you and your money, right, on that one? Did Chuck help you with renovation, or how did that get done while you, I assume, didn't live in Albuquerque at that time, or did you?
no, I didn't live there. No, yes. So this is again why I have a lot of I owe this gentleman a lot, right? Because he also he has a property management company, and kind of they do rehab as well, right? So pretty much his company did everything, right? A unit go vacant, they would give me a bid, they would go do the repairs and then lease it up, right? So it's been kind of one-stop shopping for these last 6 or 7 years working with those guys.
And how did that, how did that 11 unit turn out for you? Do you still own it, or?
Still own it. Yeah. Sold the fourplexes, but the 11 unit, I have no money in it anymore because we refinanced it in the middle of the pandemic at a low interest rate, pulled all the money out, and it's cash flowing well every month. And there's like so little overhead for me. So I was like, well, why not keep it,
Absolutely, right? Why sell them? So, okay, so now you've got a couple deals under your belt. Did you ever invest in somebody else's syndication as part of your learning phase?
Yeah, great question. I did when it's, obviously, as most people, they started listening to podcasts and learning. So I did that kind of a little bit backwards. I bought a couple of deals and then I started studying real estate investing. But so I started listening to podcasts, right? I was like, oh man, syndication sounds interesting. And I thought, let me put some money into it. So I think I set up like a self-directed IRA, rolled some money over, and I fired my stockbroker. I said, yeah, I don't need you anymore. I'll manage my own investing and so forth. And then I did a couple of syndications because I felt I wanted to expose myself to markets I wasn't in. I wanted to see what that looked like from an investor standpoint. So I think since then, I probably invested in 10 or 12 different syndications in the last 5 or 6 years.
Who's your favorite syndicator aside from yourself?
I mean, Joe Fairless has been one of him. I think that was probably the most successful ones. Done a few other ones, but yeah, kind of people that I heard on podcasts and connected with and so forth.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show.
Just for our listeners, you then started what? Doing some joint ventures with people. What's the difference for the listeners between a joint venture and a syndication?
Yeah, so it's really like if three different ways you can buy properties, I guess, right? You can buy it with your own money in your own account, and you just have to answer to yourself. You can do a joint venture where a small group of people come together and everybody has like an active role in the deal, and everybody puts capital and work into it. That's a joint venture. Just be careful. Everybody has to have a role. Otherwise, it turns into kind of that syndication. So once you start taking on more people that don't want to be active, you're essentially selling them as security. And that point, it becomes a syndication, and you got to, set up all the legal framework to make it legal.
What would be the active roles that you, in your joint ventures, that people would play? What are the different active roles so everybody could stay active under that JV umbrella?
Yeah, it could be anything from, the initial underwriting due diligence to signing on the debt, to managing the taxes, to managing the property manager, rehab work, even, it could be anywhere from very little to highly involved, right?
Do you write in your partnership agreement on those JVs who's doing what as kind of or not?
We didn't used to do that. We tend to just kind of have a handshake agreement for what we were doing. I think now we're more sophisticated, and we tend to write it out, especially on JVs. So it doesn't show up. It doesn't look like we're just trying to syndicate without doing it legally. So.
Okay, well, so how'd you get to? So you've got a couple of fourplexes, your 11 unit, maybe a couple other properties. When was your next, and you had somebody else's, you're a passive investor in somebody else's syndication. What was the next step? Was that a JV, obviously, first before you jumped into your own syndications? How did you find those people, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so when I got so excited about real estate investing, I talked to everybody about it, right? And I said, to some friends, hey, if I ever find a deal that makes sense, would you guys be interested in partnering? That was before I really felt like I wanted to do a syndication. You guys want to do a joint venture or something? And a couple of them said, oh yeah, I'm really interested in that.
Who are these? Your work buddies, your neighbors, or who's this?
Yeah, just friends through the cycling community, actually, because I was really involved in that. And, there was one guy who was a doctor, the other guy was a business owner. It's like, oh, yeah, we want to get involved. And then I told Chuck again, I said, hey, if you ever let's do, you want to partner in something? Because I wanted to go bigger, but I didn't have the capital to do it by myself. So I actually found this 38 unit deal. Was it in 17 or 8, maybe in 18, I think, I can't remember exactly, for $1.2 million, also in Albuquerque. And I was like, wow, this looks great, right? And I called my friends up, do you guys want to partner? So 5 of us got together. Yeah, 5 of us got together. Chuck, one of his buddies, me, and 2 other friends. We brought money to the deal. We all helped, kind of visit the property and underwrite and all that stuff. So we bought that deal. So that gave my first opportunity to kind of, I wouldn't say manage investors, but at least kind of, because I was the one that was traveling a lot to the site. So kind of explain what was going on, because they weren't there all the time and so forth. So explaining that and start giving them updates, my partners and so forth, right? So challenges along the way and so forth, but it taught me a lot about it. And, we still own that deal. We since refinanced it, and I actually bought one of my partners out because I kind of want to take my money somewhere else. Like, well, I'll buy you a share, and so I own a large percentage of that deal now, and that's also cash flowing really well. So that worked out great.
So then it looks like, at some point you broke off from Albuquerque, because that sounds like it was a bit of a comfort zone, because Chuck was there and had all the resources and things like that. When did you move on past Albuquerque and outside the comfort zone, I'll say, of Chuck? And what does that look like? How did that look like? And where did you start finding partners beyond Chuck? Or are your partners today the same partners of the original 38 unit you bought?
No, that was the last one we did together. So at that point I realized, okay, I'm doing some smaller deals, and I was like, I want to figure out a way to do this full time. And I said, well, the current trajectory on is not going to get me there. At that point, I was like, I better get some coaching. I better, get some mentorship. Better get around some people that's doing this, because I was living in a small town. I wasn't really hanging around anybody that's doing that. So I signed up, about 5 years ago for like a mentorship program, started going to events. I was like, wow, here are the people that I need to surround myself with because they're already doing it.
I just want to point out to everybody, have you guys noticed the theme of the conversation today? The theme of the conversation today, honestly, has been networking. You know, that's how I'm hearing it. I don't know if you guys are hearing it that way, right? You networked with, you know, your friends who introduced you to somebody, and then you networked with your cycling buddies to raise more money, and then you went and put yourself in a situation so you could network with more people by joining a coaching and mentorship program. So this is all great. I love it. So let's keep going. So now you're in mentorship world. You're starting to really jump into the coaching and going to events, and what happens from there.
Yeah. And I want to just point out something else, Julie, around, networking. I mean, I was probably a self-proclaimed introvert. I mean, I've been an IT guy sitting in front of a computer for the last 20 years, not always super comfortable getting out there. But I realized if I wanted to create the life of my dreams, I had to get outside my comfort zone, right? So if somebody's listening that they feel a little shy, a little hesitant to go out there, it's just the most amazing community to be in. Everybody wants to share, wants to learn, wants to, grow together and networks.
And is that because you were afraid to talk to people because you didn't feel like you had experience, or it just wasn't your, something that you'd done is just start going out and talking to strangers? When you say like the introvert, how did you convert? And did you have like oh man, that was easier than I thought, or you enjoyed it because you had never tried it? That's a real thing that I think people struggle with. How did you overcome it?
I think really it came from the fact that I got so excited about it, and I couldn't stop myself from wanting to talk to more people and share more and just get to know people, right? I've gone to IT conferences in the past and I hated them because they're like so boring. Everybody's nerds. Now I'm actually going to events where people are excited, where it's fun, where everybody wants to learn. And, it was a little scary, or what do you want to call it, the first time. But then I was like, man, I couldn't wait to get back because here's my tribe, here's my friends, here are the people I want to surround myself, and I forced myself to do things. Here's some great tips. If you go to an event, don't sit at the back on an outside row, right? Or a seat on the back row. Go as far as you can to the front, sit in the middle so you can talk to people, move around, sit with different people, right? So that's basically, so I started going to these events, and that's where I started getting introduced to people that were in the syndication business. I had no idea how to put one together, but I had an opportunity then to become kind of a co-sponsor on a deal through, helping some underwriting, some due diligence, and raising some capital. So I was like, I think early 2019, I had built enough credibility with more investors. I had, started meeting syndicators, and I was able to kind of co-sponsor my first deal. I mean, it was a small raise for me in a deal in Atlanta, but it actually got me in the game, the syndication game. I was like, wow, this actually.
So how did that happen? You were at one of these events and you started talking about what you're doing, and people started taking notice, or through your coaching program that you were involved, they started putting a spotlight on you, or what? Because you had put your time in, and they were saying, hey, look, listen to this guy. He knows what he's doing. He's taken some action. Did you get a spotlight put on you, or did you just network your way into like somebody willing to let you co-sponsor? I hate to get all nitty gritty on it, but this is what people get hung up on. Jens, they get hung up on whether or not you've done 10 syndications, nobody really cares about, right? I mean, we do, but we also, we're trying to get people who are like you just over that hump, right? So does that make sense on why I'm drilling down so hard on this rather than asking about the underwrite stuff? Because that's how you help people.
I'll explain exactly what I did. So take notes. So I would go to these events, right? This is part of this coaching program. I'd go to these events. I would also see the people on the training classes and the Zoom classes and stuff. But there was 4 or 5 people that I've like, oh, I kind of like these guys, right? They're kind of where I am, or maybe a step or two ahead of me, but not like on a pedestal. So I said, hey, because I lived in a small town, I didn't have a network there. So I was like, do you guys want to get on I think it's a monthly mastermind? I'll set it up. I'll set up the Zoom call. I just want you guys to show up so I can be around you guys. I didn't say it like that, but I said so we can collaborate and network. So I set that up, and I had 4 or 5 guys show up, and one of them, he had done 1 or 2 syndications. He's like, well, we're going to be partnering with this other team to do a deal. Are you interested in coming along? Because I had created enough credibility and trust with this guy that he felt like he could bring me on. I said, yeah, I have a handful of investors. I can't raise millions of dollars, but maybe, 300,000-500,000. He's like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see. Right. And at that point, I got the opportunity to become part of it. So, and I hadn't really talked about this, and we can get into it. I coach and mentor a lot of new investors too. So I say network, build team, get around people. That's how you take action. Try to find that person that is a little bit more experienced than you and find a way to add value, right? So I basically created the community, and we for a year or two, we kept meeting every month, right? And we did some deals together and everything. So that's kind of how it all started for me.
I love it. I just got the goosebumps. That's the goal right there, guys, is that's how you do it. You just get out there and do it. So fantastic. So you got to co-sponsor your first deal. I mean, I'm going to jump forward here a little bit. It looks like, that I'm looking at one of your deals on your website. It says Open Doors Capital partnered with Peril Real Estate and Prospera Ventures to purchase a portfolio of 62 apartments in the Madison, Ohio area in December 2021. Now, if you look at your portfolio, that is kind of the same thing that you've done, it looks like, on several deals where you've partnered with, so I guess, is that like a business model? Is that, where you get a group of guys and gals together that have a little bit of experience and everybody brings in, their handful of investors? Or is that kind of a way to get started? Or is that what I'm seeing? Or I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah. I think we've done a lot of partnerships, right? So I think the biggest challenge we all have starting out is, right, can we find a deal? Can we persuade a broker to give us the deal, the award of the deal? And then the second one is, can we raise the money to make it a reality, right? And quite often we pool our resources. And I think that's what's so awesome about syndication. If you pool your resources, so you'll see a lot of my stuff is in Ohio and Pennsylvania, because I ended up finding my now partner at one of these events as well. And we have then, kind of strategically partnered with different people. Maybe, Prospera Ventures, we did 3 deals with them. We were actually on a call with them today about another one. But they were local, younger guys. They were like really hands-on, wanted to be in the nitty-gritty every day, right? Which I'm far away, so I can't do that. But they didn't really have the resources to raise capital, the net worth to sign on the deals. So we partnered on them, right? So we've done 3 deals with them. We've sold 2 of them already. So we're only in one. We may do 1 more.
Because they brought value on their side of what they were willing to spend the time in. You brought the value on your side, your other partners. Everybody brings their value to the table, right? That's it. Find other people that can complement your skill sets and bring different values to the table than you can through these networking events and through putting yourself in the room with other people that are hungry. I love this message today, kicking off 2023. Jens, this is super great stuff here. So yeah, okay, we'll keep going. Tell us what's up.
Yeah, I just want to, I think kind of this whole, what these events are and this group brought to me, right? In the middle of actually early 2019, I met my now partner, this guy, Jason Peril, and, he was doing his second syndication. Had been in the business for a very, very long time. So I got involved on that one in middle of 2019. And since then, I think we've done like 15 or 18 deals together. So
yeah,
just because him and I mean, we buddies now, but we complement each other. I'm the analytical, conservative, underwriting kind of guy, and he's like the networking, the broker relationships, anything is possible guy, right? So we really work well together, right?
How are you guys finding your deals now? Because you're located one place and some of your other partners are located elsewhere, how do you guys find deals at this point? I mean, it looks like you guys are get partners, whoever you maybe meet new partners at networking events, they say, I have a deal, and maybe you do a deal in that market if it makes sense.
So I try to focus on right now on the Cleveland, the Ohio market, right? Because that's close to where my partner lives. He lives in Erie, Pennsylvania. So we've done some deals in Erie, Pennsylvania. We've done some deals in Cleveland, just because Jason has the broker relationships there. So he's very plugged into the market, as with the local brokers. So he gets a lot of deals that way. Then we've sponsored a couple of deals like in Oklahoma and in southern New Mexico through some of the people that we are coaching and mentoring, right? They come up with a deal, they find a deal, and we step in and help them. So that's kind of right. We're just kind of scaling that back a little bit because we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, right? But it really is broker relationships these days that's how we find the deals. Although, as I mentioned, we spoke to our partners this morning, and they had actually networked with an owner and have 90 units on a contract to buy from them and so forth.
Nice. So yeah, let's get down to that. So in commercial real estate, in multifamily, especially as you start getting into some of the larger properties, it is controlled and you have to be involved with brokers, correct? Would you say that, you really, how do you get to the attention of the broker when, maybe they've been in business for a while, maybe, and they have their book of business? How do you get, is the first deal you have to buy a little thinner to show that, you're a player, or how do you compete against their other buyers? Or is it not everybody has money all at the same time? Tell us the sweet sauce there.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge, right? Now it may be a little bit easier given where we are with interest rates and everything else. But I always say, hey, make sure the broker gets to know you, right? If you want to invest in Atlanta, go to Atlanta and meet all the, not all, but the brokers that you feel like are the ones that's going to help. Meet with them, lunch, dinners, coffees, whatever that may be.
How often are you staying in touch with them?
So I'm not the guy who does a lot of the broker outreach. I know that, it really is, every few weeks, maybe once a month, just call up and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Broker, I'm still interested. I'm still in the market, right? Really that networking. And then, once you, give them feedback. They send you a deal, give them feedback and say, oh, I like the deal, except here's some challenges I have, and just keep communicating. Don't be a black hole, right? And then if you do find something, put in a serious offer, right? Show that you have partners and say, hey, I'm partnering with these people. Maybe if this is your first deal, find some more experienced partners so you get the credibility through your team.
Have you guys ever picked up a property that you were working with a broker on? You said, hey, that's just too much for us. And they come back to you and you get a better deal than originally it was put out to?
Well, we're on the contract right now to buy a deal that started out small. It started out at $6 million. We're actually on the contract to buy it for $5 million, right? Because the seller was, was like, well, we couldn't really pay it because of the interest rates and stuff. We kept kind of pushing back, and then we had some problems with some roof work that needs to be done. So we were able to push them to $5 million. So definitely, there's been some deals that we have passed on and then has come back to us, right? We had another seller who was selling like hundreds. He was getting rid of his whole portfolio, but he wanted to sell it in big chunks, like 400 or 500 units at a time, and we couldn't do that. But now we've actually been chipping away at individual properties in that portfolio. Maybe it's 50, 60, 100 units at a time, right?
Well, let's jump into the deals for a minute. So have you gone full cycle through purchase, repositioning, refinancing, and sell?
Yeah, I think about 5 deals right now that we've gone full cycle on. Deal in Phoenix. Well, a bunch of my smaller stuff I've sold, but on the syndications, a deal in Atlanta we sold, a deal in Phoenix, and then Erie. Yeah, we sold 5. We've gone full cycle on 5 syndications since we started.
And let's just go with what's the most recent lesson that you've learned or aha moment? I know you guys picked up a bunch of properties, it looks like, in 2021 and, several per year for years before that. But, we're sitting here at the start of 2023. You must have had some big lessons over the last year or two here. What do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned out of all those purchases that you've made so far?
Patience. I think it's the big one. So basically what I mean by that is, especially on value add deals, you do your underwriting. It's like, oh, we can turn so many units over this period of time and raise the rent. Reality is never like your underwriting. So I think the biggest lesson I've learned, especially anything value add, is just have patience. My experience been, let's say occupancy is running at 90%. Even regardless of what you do, it inevitably drops when you buy the property because there's new management in there, they don't like it, blah, 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 blah. And you start dropping occupancy, right? Then you're like, oh crap, now what do I do, right? And you got to start renovating those units, and you're going to start getting the occupancy up and the income back up, right? So any property I've been on, it looks great the first 1 or 2 months, then the income starts dropping, and then you're like in that trough, and then you have to kind of dig your way out of that again.
Which, I mean, if you're going through a repositioning, maybe sometimes you want to have those units in your possession so you can, get going with your renovation. I guess the hardest part is making sure the investors investing with you understand the cycle of the deal, right? That, I've been in your shoes. I grew up in multifamily, and, we didn't really even do any distributions at all. I'd call ours more joint ventures and not syndications, but maybe for the first, until we refinanced, basically, is that all the cash flow went back into the property. And we didn't really do a lot of distributions until we could reach our stabilization point, unless we had frothy extra. But what else? So what else is going on? And are you having any trouble with the properties that you picked up due to the interest rates, and you guys getting stuck in repositioning, and now rates are so much higher that you're going to actually be forced to sell a few?
There's one deal that we bought about a year and a half ago when interest rates were, nothing. And a huge lesson there, right? We bought on a floating rate bridge that looked great, and we did not buy a rate cap on there. So that was probably a huge lesson for us. So it started out at like 4% interest. Now it's like 8% interest. But so it's a couple of things. So that's, the debt on that one is definitely hurting us right now. I will say though, we had a 3-year repositioning plan. We're not even a year and a half in there. We returned every single unit. It was just incredible over the summer, how many people moving out. So we returned 180 units in a year, a little over a year. So we're in a very good position. So we're working on refinance of that one right now. So I am very happy that we are, because if we had been only done like a handful of units, we would have been in deep trouble. So lessons learned there for sure. Don't buy floating rate without a rate cap. So we have some other bridge debt, but they're fixed debt. So we don't know if it's not going to go crazy on us, right? So that's kind of what the one deal that we are dealing with right now that we're trying to refinance.
Is that structure? Are you guys usually putting on some sort of bridge debt and then repositioning, refinancing, not, raising the full capital stack, or is that normally your structure?
So we've done, some of the earlier deals were just fixed debt with Freddie or Fannie, right? Low interest, long-term debt. Some of these more speculative deal has been with bridge debt, higher leverage, higher interest rate, but 2 or 3 year term. So we're definitely much more careful about that, given where the interest rate environment is right now. I think we can still create a lot of value, but as you said, Julie, it's like having the patience. Maybe there's no distribution for a year or two as we're repositioning this, but the big payday comes, at the refi or the sale, right?
Right. So, and what do you think is I always ask this to syndicators, because we've had a great run the last few years, but unless what's the biggest problem you think you guys have had to overcome that happened on one of your properties? Like, did you have fire, or did you have something happen that you guys had to overcome? Because that's the test of a true, asset manager. And, somebody who says, oh, we don't have any problems. Okay, well, next. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I think, as you said, anybody who bought real estate in the last 5 years that looked like a genius, that's gonna change now. So we did a deal in Phoenix where we had a fire. We had like 25 units. Luckily, it was in one building, but somebody actually lit fire to the building. So that was a painful experience. In the end, it turned out well because we got the units rehab. Now, if anybody's been paying attention to the storms over the New Year, over Christmas in the Northeast, like in Buffalo and stuff, we have probably more than a handful of units that got severely damaged from frozen pipes and stuff, in Ohio. So that's, something we're dealing with right now, trying to figure out and stuff we just renovated, like got to go back in there and do rework, right? So those are the things that inevitably will happen if you're in a business long enough. So you just kind of you take a deep breath and it's like, okay, what do we do now, right? What is the plan going forward?
Awesome. Well, tell us about how people can get involved with you, and what your coaching and mentorship is about, or how people can partner with you, or maybe even right along in your deals. I mean, you're a guy that seems really relatable. People are drawn to that, maybe feel comfortable that get in some of these big syndications. Maybe they feel they're just riding along, as like a voyeur on the outside watching what's going on. But you strike me as the guy that maybe they could call up and learn from at the same time. So how does that look like for you? And what do you offer on that front?
Yeah, thanks. A couple of things, right? I mean, if somebody want to invest passively, they can go to my website, opendoors.capital.com. And there's a link there to sign up on my investor portal, and we'll get you in. We'll get on a call to get to know each other. So that's a way to invest with us in our next deal. We got a few things coming up. If anybody's interested in mentoring, I'm also a certified high performance coach. So I coach people, mindset coaching, life coaching type stuff. So if anybody's interested in that, there's a link there, a mentorship on there. But also what I want to offer to anybody that wants to get on a call with me, they can go to opendoors.capital/call and schedule a free 20-minute call with me, and just let's get to know each other. I've had hundreds of calls with investors and people that want mentoring or coaching or partners, whatever that is. So that's my offer to any of your listeners. And my email is Jens, Jens @opendoorscapital.com.
Awesome stuff. So what's the next event you're going to? Isn't the best ever event? Doesn't that come up in February?
I think it's coming up. I'm actually going to the Race Masters event in Louisville, Kentucky. I think it's next week, actually.
Which one's that?
It's Hunter Thompson's.
Okay.
So that's coming up in Louisville, Kentucky.
It's
and then
called
I'm actually
Race Masters.
Race Master, Race Fest.
Raise,
RAI.
R-A-I.
As in Raising Money Fest. Yeah.
Gotcha. Raise Masters. Gotcha. Okay.
And then actually maybe another plug here. We do run a small kind of mastermind conference in Denver. It's coming up in April, and it's very intimate especially for newer investors that want to, not be overwhelmed by 500 people. So we run like 50 to 70 people there, and it's called the Pay It Forward Mastermind. So payitforwardmastermind.com. You can go on there and
Joe will drop all that stuff in the show notes, guys. And that's, I assume, some sort of paid event, right?
Yeah, it's a paid event, right? We do masterminding, we do breakouts, we have speakers, we do coaching and other things. So it's a really kind of very intimate, very collaborative event.
Sounds really good. All right, guys. Well, hopefully today you've been inspired by Jens's story, and that you just need to get out there and go talk to people, go meet people, go put yourself in the same room with people that are like-minded, that are, you can collaborate with and bring your funds together on. And I like the tip of, reaching out to people that are a click or two ahead of you. Those people are very willing. They're in growth mode too. They're in that same mode you are. That's how I got started too. I did the same thing. I put myself in that room and I actually started lending money to people that I wanted to make a relationship with and get to know them better. And now I realize I don't have to necessarily do that to get to know. I just need to show up and start talking to them. Right. So that's great. I hope that you guys are inspired by this, and this is a good kickoff for you in 2023. And Jens, all the best wishes to you guys as you go out and continue to crush it. I hope you get that deal that you're working on. And anything else, Joe, where can everybody find the details of today's podcast? All right, guys, I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.